The evil village where no one dared to go out after 6 p.m. The village was so disastrous. Souls are being taken to redeem the agreement the elders accepted from the evil spirit. This is a powerful and amazing story you would never afford to miss, but before we dive into this powerful story, kindly subscribe to our channel if you're still turning into our channel and give this story a thumbs up. The bus coughed out a cloud of black smoke as it rolled to a stop on the dusty road. I stepped down, my bag hanging from my shoulder, and the first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the normal village quiet where you hear goats bleating or children laughing in the distance. This was a deep, heavy silence, the kind that made the hairs on your neck stand. The wooden sign by the roadside read in faded paint, "Welcome to Aninha." Underneath, someone had scratched a smaller message. "Be home before 6. I adjusted my shirt and looked around. The houses were old, most with rusted zinc roofs. The streets were narrow, lined with dusty trees that seemed to bend forward, as if they were eavesdropping on whoever passed. A few people walked by, carrying baskets or firewood. But what struck me most was how they avoided my eyes. No smiles. No greetings. Just quick glances and faster steps. I had come here as an investigative journalist. The story I was chasing was strange. Several people had vanished in Aninha over the past 3 years. The police had no answers. The locals kept quiet. And yet, every rumor pointed to one rule: never be outside after 6 o'clock in the evening. I headed towards the only guest house I could find, a 2-story mud brick building with faded blue paint. The sign above the door read, "Mama Ngozi's Lodge." Inside, the air smelled of old wood and cooking smoke. Behind the counter sat an elderly woman in a bright wrapper, her eyes sharp and knowing. "You must be the Lagos man," she said before I could introduce myself. Yes. "David Oak," I replied. "I'm here for..." She raised a hand to stop me. "I don't need to know. But you need to know this: once the sun starts going down, you find your way inside and stay there until morning." Her voice was low but firm, the kind you don't argue with. I gave a small laugh. "I heard about that. Is it some kind of village custom?" Her eyes didn't soften. "Customs keep people alive. Out here, night belongs to things you don't want to meet." Before I could ask more, a loud clang echoed from outside. I walked to the window and saw people moving quickly down the street. Doors were shutting. Stalls were being closed. It wasn't even 5 p.m. yet, but the whole village seemed in a rush to disappear. Mama Ngozi stepped beside me. "You see? They know better. It's Monday, the crying one always comes on Monday." "The crying one?" I asked. She didn't answer, just turned and went back to her counter. By 5:30 p.m., the streets were empty. The air was still, as if the whole village was holding its breath. I ate a small plate of yam porridge Mama Ngozi served me and went upstairs to my room. I told myself I was here to do a job, to find the truth behind the disappearances. But as I sat by the window watching the last light fade, a strange coldness crept into the room. Somewhere in my chest, my heartbeat quickened, though I didn't yet know why. The air grew colder as night fell over Aninha. The walls of my room creaked like old bones, and the low hum of the wind through the cracks in the windowsill only made things worse. I could hear distant voices outside, but they weren't speaking in a way that felt natural. It was just past 10 p.m. when Mama Ngozi's words echoed in my mind: "Once the sun starts going down, you find your way inside and stay there until morning." I couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped, but I tried to ignore it. I had work to do. I picked up my notebook, trying to focus on the case. The mysterious disappearances. The rumors about the village's strange rule. It all felt like a farce, a superstition meant to keep outsiders away. Or so I told myself. I turned on the light, pulled out my recorder, and began reviewing the notes from my interviews that day. But no matter how hard I tried to focus, there was something unsettling about the night. And then it came. A faint sound, almost imperceptible at first, like the wind brushing against the trees. But no. It wasn't the wind. It was crying. I sat up straight, my heart hammering in my chest. The cry was faint at first, like a soft whimper in the distance, but then it grew louder. A baby's cry. Louder and louder, closer and closer. My mind screamed at me to stay still. To ignore it. But the cry pulled me to the window. I didn't know why, but I had to look. I stood up and walked slowly to the window, my breath shallow, my hands shaking as I reached for the curtain. Who could be out there at this hour? I thought. The village was supposed to be asleep, hidden behind closed doors. There were no children living in the lodge, and certainly no babies on the street. I pulled the curtain back just enough to peek outside. My eyes scanned the street below. Nothing. Just the empty road stretching into the darkness. I couldn't help it. I looked again. There, in the far distance, I could see the shadow of something moving slowly, as though it were dragging itself along the road. The cry stopped suddenly. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. It was too quiet now. Too still. I stepped back from the window and closed the curtain. I wasn't sure what I'd seen, or what I'd heard. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't alone. I tried to go back to my notes, to pretend like nothing had happened. But the silence in the room grew unbearable. Every small creak and groan of the house seemed amplified in the dark. My mind wandered back to Mama Ngozi's warning. The crying one always comes on Monday. Was she talking about a spirit? A ghost? I didn't know, but I didn't want to find out. Just as I reached for the light to turn it off, a loud knock at the door startled me. David. David, are you awake? It was Tund, a young man I had met earlier in the day. I opened the door cautiously, unsure of why he was here at this hour. Tund looked around nervously before stepping inside. His face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. David, listen to me, he whispered. You need to be careful. The crying, it's not just a sound. It's a warning. If you hear it, you have to stay inside. You cannot go out. Not now, not after dark. I shook my head, trying to understand. What do you mean? What is it? What's happening here? Tund looked around again, then grabbed my arm. You don't understand. You're an outsider, so you won't know. But the crying is a sign. A sign that someone is about to be taken. Taken? I repeated, a chill creeping down my spine. Yes. The village has a rule. The elders, they protect us from them. But after 6, we're on our own. And the crying means someone's about to disappear. I stared at Tund, my mind racing. Who's taking people? He opened his mouth, but just then, there was a loud bang from downstairs, followed by the sound of scraping, like something heavy dragging across the floor. We both froze. Another knock came at the door, more insistent this time. Tund's face went white. It's them, he whispered. We need to go. Before I could react, the door slammed open, and a gust of wind filled the room. The lights flickered and then went out. We were plunged into darkness. And then, through the silence, came the crying again, this time louder, closer, and unmistakable. It was right outside the door. The first thing I noticed when the lights came back on was that the air was thicker, heavier, like it was holding something back. Tund and I stood in silence, both of us frozen in place, listening to the faint echo of the crying outside. But the baby's wail wasn't the only sound anymore. There was something else, a low, eerie scratching noise that seemed to come from the walls themselves. I wasn't sure if it was the dark, or the fear creeping into my bones, but something about that night felt wrong, deeply wrong. Tund grabbed my arm, his grip tight and urgent. "We need to get out of here. I'll take you somewhere safe." I was about to argue, to demand answers from him, when suddenly, the door creaked open again. This time, there was no wind. I glanced over at Tund. He was already moving, backing away from the door as if it had a life of its own. My heart hammered in my chest, but my feet didn't move. I couldn't. The door opened fully, revealing nothing but blackness. And then, as if in slow motion, a figure emerged from the shadows. It wasn't a person. It was too tall, too thin. It moved like it was gliding, its limbs unnaturally long. The face was hidden in the folds of a ragged cloth, but I could hear the rasping breath. The crying had stopped now, replaced by a soft, chilling whisper that seemed to come from every direction at once. "Come closer. Join us." I grabbed Tund's sleeve, pulling him back toward the window. There was no way I was staying here with that thing in the room. "No," he said urgently, pulling me away from the window. "You don't understand. They can't be allowed to get to you." "Who?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Tund hesitated, his eyes darting around nervously. "The village. The spirits. They take one person every time. It's part of the deal. The elders made a pact with something dark, and they've been feeding it ever since." I was still processing the words, trying to understand what he meant, when another knock came at the door. This time, it was more insistent. More urgent. Tund's face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. "It's time. They've come for you." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not letting this, whatever it is, take me." I moved towards the door, but Tund stopped me. "You can't fight it. No one can. Not unless you know the truth about this place. About what's happening." I turned back to face him, heart racing. "Then tell me. What is this? Why does the village follow this rule? Why is everyone so scared?" Tund's gaze dropped to the floor. For a moment, he didn't speak. Then, quietly, he said, "It started with the elders. Years ago, they made a deal with something dark, something that lives in the forest beyond the village. It promised them protection, power, wealth. In exchange, they had to give it something." "Something?" I repeated, the words feeling like a cold weight in my stomach. "Lives," Tund replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Every year, the village has to sacrifice someone. That's why the rule exists. After 6, the spirits come. They're not just ghosts. They're the souls of those who were taken. And if you're outside after dark, they'll claim you too." I felt a shiver run down my spine. "And the babies crying? What's that?" Tund looked at me, his face stricken with fear. "It's the sound of the latest victim. When someone is taken, their spirit cries out. The baby cry means someone is close to being taken. And tonight, I think it's you." His words hit me like a punch. I felt dizzy, my breath shallow. I could hear the faint scrape of footsteps outside the door, moving slowly, methodically. The whispering grew louder, more insistent. "Come closer. Join us." I stepped back, stumbling over my own feet. Tund reached for my arm, but just then, a voice echoed through the room, loud and commanding. "David Oak." I froze. It was a voice I didn't recognize, but it felt familiar. It felt like it was inside me. "David Oak, you are needed. You belong to us now." Tund's face turned even paler. "This is it," he whispered, "this is how it starts. They've marked you. There's no escaping it now. The door slammed open with a deafening crash. A figure loomed in the doorway. Its form was indistinct, like smoke, but the pressure in the room was palpable, like something ancient and powerful was pushing against the walls. The baby's cry pierced the air again, louder now, as if the child was right there, begging for help. I glanced at Tund, who was backing away, his face full of terror. "You can't run from it, David. You can't hide." Suddenly, everything around me began to fade. The walls closed in, the floor felt like it was rising beneath me, and the shadows seemed to stretch longer and longer, swallowing the room. The baby's cry grew louder, and in the distance, I saw what I had feared most. The spirits. They were coming. The room was spinning. My legs felt like jelly, barely able to hold me up. I reached for the wall to steady myself, but it seemed to move, warping and stretching like a dark, living thing. The whispering voices were louder now, filling the air, surrounding me from all directions. "Join us, come closer, your time is near." I could hear Tund shouting at me, but his voice was distant, as if underwater. I turned to look at him, but the shadows were already pulling him away, his figure vanishing into the thick blackness of the room. "David," he cried, his voice cutting through the fog. "Get out of here. Get out now." But the words barely reached me. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. The air was thick with an oppressive force, squeezing the life from me. Then, in a burst of clarity, I saw it. The doorway was filled with a shape, a figure. It was tall and thin, its arms stretching unnaturally long. Its face was shrouded in darkness, but I could feel its eyes on me, burning into my soul. It wasn't human. Without thinking, my body moved. I turned and ran, not caring where I was going, just away. Away from the figure, away from the room that was closing in on me. I sprinted down the hall, my breath ragged, my heart racing. The house seemed endless, the walls stretching farther and farther the more I ran. But I couldn't escape the sound. The crying. It followed me, echoing through the house, louder and louder, until it felt like it was inside my mind. "Come closer. Join us." I burst out of the door, into the cold night air, and for a moment, I thought I might be free. But as I stepped onto the street, I froze. The village was alive with shadows. Figures moved in the darkness, thin, gaunt shapes, their faces obscured by the blackness. The crying had stopped, but the whispering grew louder, more urgent. I looked around, my eyes wild, searching for anything that could help me. But there was nothing. No one. Just the darkness closing in. I turned to the trees, the dense forest at the edge of the village. I had no choice. I ran toward it, hoping against hope that I could lose whatever was chasing me. But as I entered the forest, something in the air changed. The trees seemed to lean toward me, their branches moving as if reaching for my skin. The ground beneath my feet felt wrong, soft and shifting, like it was alive. I stumbled, almost falling, but I kept running, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know how long I had been running, but when I finally looked up, I was deep in the forest. The village was far behind me, swallowed by the night. I could still hear the whispers, but they were distant now, barely audible. I collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. My body ached, my mind foggy, but I couldn't stop. The whispers were getting closer again. I could feel the presence behind me, watching me. Suddenly, a voice cut through the air. "David." I spun around, fear gripping me. It was Tund. His face was pale, his eyes wide with terror. You came after me?" I whispered, my voice shaking. Tund nodded, stepping closer. "I couldn't leave you. But you need to understand, David. You can't outrun them. You can't escape them. They are part of this village. Part of the deal the elders made." "What deal?" I demanded, my voice trembling with anger. What are you talking about? Tun took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the darkness around us. The elders made a pact with the spirits of the forest. They traded their souls for power, for protection. The spirits agreed, but in return, the village had to give up someone every year, a sacrifice to keep the deal alive. And now, it's your turn. I stared at him, disbelief written across my face. You're telling me the whole village knew about this? The elders, they allowed people to die every year? Tund looked away, guilt in his eyes. Yes. And when the sun sets, the spirits take the sacrifice. But tonight, David, the rules have changed. They're coming for you now. They've marked you. I shook my head, feeling the weight of his words pressing down on me. This couldn't be real. It just couldn't be. But I'm not part of this village. I shouted. I'm just a journalist. I came here to investigate, not to be a part of some ritual. Tun's voice grew low, urgent. You don't have to be part of the village. But once they've chosen you, once they've marked you, it doesn't matter. You're part of the sacrifice now. I stepped back, my mind reeling. So, there's nothing I can do. I just die. Like the others? Tun's eyes filled with sorrow. There might be a way. There's an old legend, a story passed down by the village elders. If you can reach the heart of the forest before the spirits take you, you can break the pact. You can end it all. I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening. The heart of the forest? Tund nodded. Yes. It's the place where the deal was made. Where the elders sealed the pact. But it's dangerous. No one who has gone has ever returned. I'll go, I said, my voice shaking but determined. I have to. It's the only chance I have. Tund grabbed my arm. David, no. You don't understand. The forest, it's alive. The spirits don't just take your life. They take your soul. They turn you into one of them. But I couldn't stop. The whispers were growing louder again, more insistent. Join us. Come closer. I turned and ran, not looking back. The forest was my only hope. And if I had to face whatever waited for me there, I would. I had no choice. I ran as if my life depended on it, because it did. The forest stretched before me like a dark maze, its trees twisted and gnarled, their branches reaching out like fingers trying to grab me. The ground beneath my feet was soft and spongy, almost as if it were trying to swallow me whole. Every step I took seemed to take me deeper into the heart of the darkness. I didn't dare look back. The whispers were all around me now, growing louder, like 100 voices speaking all at once. Join us. Come closer. You belong to us. Tun's warning echoed in my mind, but I couldn't stop. I had to keep going. The heart of the forest was my only chance to escape, to break the curse that had plagued this village for generations. The further I went, the more the forest seemed to close in on me. The trees grew thicker, their trunks wider, blocking out what little light remained. The air was suffocating, thick with the scent of earth and decay. The ground was uneven, and I stumbled several times, my heart racing with fear. Then, just when I thought I couldn't go any further, I saw it, a faint glow in the distance. It was weak at first, barely visible through the trees, but it pulsed, like the beating of a heart. I followed it, my steps quickening, desperate to reach whatever was waiting for me at the center of this cursed place. The glow grew brighter the closer I got, until it illuminated a clearing in the forest. At the center of the clearing stood an ancient stone altar, covered in moss and vines. The air around it was thick, almost electric, and I could feel the presence of something ancient, something powerful. The whispers were gone now, replaced by a silence so deep it felt unnatural. I took a step forward, my breath coming in shallow gasps. As I approached the altar, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There, carved into the stone, were symbols, ancient runes that seemed to pulse with an eerie energy. The symbols were familiar, though I couldn't remember where I had seen them before. It was like they were calling to me, urging me to come closer. I reached out a trembling hand to touch the symbols, but as soon as my fingers brushed the stone, a wave of coldness washed over me. The ground beneath my feet trembled, and the air around me seemed to shift. And then, I heard it. A low, guttural voice that seemed to come from the stone itself. You have come. You have broken the rules. You seek to break the pact, but you do not understand. I jerked back, my heart racing. The voice was deep and ancient, filled with malice. I spun around, searching for the source, but there was nothing. The forest was empty, except for the altar. Who are you? I demanded, my voice trembling. The voice laughed, a sound like dry leaves rustling in the wind. I am the one who was called. The one who made the deal. I am the spirit of this land. And now, you must pay the price for your intrusion. I backed away from the altar, my eyes darting around the clearing. I had to think. I had to find a way out. That's when I remembered what Tund had told me. If you can reach the heart of the forest before the spirits take you, you can break the pact. I was here. I had reached the heart of the forest. But how could I break the pact? What did that even mean? The voice spoke again, its tone mocking. The pact cannot be broken. The sacrifice is already made. You are the one who will feed the spirits. There is no escape. I shook my head, my pulse pounding in my ears. There had to be a way out. There had to be something I could do. You are wrong, I said, though my voice trembled. I won't be your sacrifice. I won't let you take me. The air grew colder. The ground beneath my feet rumbled. The altar began to glow, brighter and brighter, until it was blinding. And then, through the blinding light, I saw it, a figure emerging from the shadows. It was tall, its form flickering like smoke, but I could see its eyes. Red. Glowing. Malevolent. It reached out toward me, its long, bony fingers stretching as if to drag me into the abyss. I tried to move, but my body was frozen. I couldn't run. I couldn't breathe. The spirit was closing in, its presence suffocating. But then, something inside me snapped. I couldn't let this happen. I couldn't let it win. With every ounce of strength I had left, I pushed forward, stumbling toward the altar. My hand reached for the symbols, and I pressed my palm against the stone. And then, everything went black. I woke up to silence. For a long moment, I couldn't move. My body felt heavy, like I was sinking into the ground. The air around me was cold, almost freezing, but there was something different about it now. The oppressive weight of the forest had lifted. I opened my eyes, but all I saw was black. No light. No shadows. Just a void. I tried to move, but I couldn't feel my legs. The fear that had been buried deep inside me began to bubble up once again. Was this it? Had I died? Was I now one of the spirits that haunted this place, forever trapped in the darkness? But then, a soft sound broke through the silence. A baby's cry. It was faint, barely audible, but it was there. The same cry I had heard earlier. The cry that had followed me from the moment I arrived in Aninha. I sat up quickly, panic surging through me. I tried to stand, but my feet felt like they were rooted to the ground. I looked around, my eyes straining to see anything. The darkness was complete, impenetrable. But I could still hear the crying, growing louder with every passing second. The cry seemed to come from everywhere, surrounding me, filling my mind. Help me. Please help me. I reached out in desperation, my hands brushing against something cold and smooth. It felt like stone. My fingers traced the surface, and I realized I was back at the altar. The symbols were gone. The glowing light had faded. But the presence was still there, looming over me, suffocating me with its weight. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized I was not alone. A voice spoke, low and guttural, coming from behind me. "You thought you could break the pact?" I turned quickly, but there was nothing. Just the same endless darkness. But I could feel its presence, like a shadow pressing against me. "No one escapes," the voice continued, closer now, as if it was whispering directly into my ear. "You belong to us." I backed away, stumbling over the ground. My breath came in ragged gasps, panic rising in my chest. The voice was everywhere now, surrounding me, suffocating me. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw a figure. It was the same one I had seen at the door in the lodge. The tall, thin figure, its face hidden in darkness. It reached out, its long, skeletal hand stretching toward me, its fingers grazing my skin. I gasped, trying to pull away, but my body was frozen, trapped in place. "No!" I screamed, but the words were swallowed by the darkness. "I won't go with you. I won't become one of you." But the figure didn't stop. It kept moving toward me, its hand closing around my wrist, pulling me closer. The baby's cry was now a deafening scream in my ears, mixing with the voices of the other spirits, their wails filling the air. "Join us. You're one of us now." I felt a cold pressure on my chest, like something was tearing at my very soul. My vision blurred, and I could feel the life draining from me. But just as I thought I would succumb to the darkness, something inside me snapped. The truth. Tun's words came rushing back. The pact cannot be broken. The sacrifice is already made. But the legend. The old story. The heart of the forest. The pact could be undone, not by running away, not by fighting. But by confronting it. By breaking it from the inside. "You can end it," I whispered to myself. "You can break the pact." With every ounce of strength I had left, I reached up and grasped the figure's hand. I could feel its icy grip, but I didn't let go. I had to do this. I had to break the curse. I closed my eyes, focusing all my energy on the altar. The heart of the forest. I had to reach it again. I had to destroy the source. And as I did, the darkness around me began to shift. The whispers grew fainter. The baby's cry stopped, replaced by something else, a voice, soft but powerful, speaking to me from the heart of the forest. "You have come to undo the pact. But you cannot destroy what has been done." I opened my eyes. The figure was gone, and the darkness had faded, replaced by an eerie stillness. The altar stood before me, but it was different now. The symbols were cracked, their glow dimmed. The air felt lighter, less oppressive. But the truth was clear. I hadn't broken the pact. I hadn't escaped. I was still trapped in the heart of the forest, forever bound to the spirits of a ninja. I took one last look around, and in that moment, I realized something. The villagers hadn't been wrong. They hadn't made a deal with a spirit. They had made a deal with something much worse, with the darkness that lived in the heart of the forest, feeding on their souls, and now it had claimed mine as well. And as I felt myself slipping away, I heard it one last time, the baby's cry. But this time, it was not a cry for help. It was a cry of victory. And that's the end of this powerful and interesting story. Kindly subscribe to our channel and also give this story a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching and do have a wonderful day ahead.